This video was originally entitled Kong's Worst Moment, and was going to dissect a particularly telling choice in Godzilla vs. Kong. However, after the interest Why Not Kong garnered, I thought I would make things more balanced and examine a positive scene too. This turned out to be a little more difficult than I first thought. That's not to say Kong is bad in Godzilla vs. Kong, he mostly comes off alright.
Mostly.
He's put into ridiculous situations, but usually acts and reacts to them in character. But every time I think I've found a good scene, it is undermined or tarnished by something else in the film. Take this scene, for example. Kong is pissed off, probably because he's in chains, in a strange environment, in the dark, in a storm that probably reminds him a little too much of the perpetual storm that swallowed Skull Island. Thankfully, Jaya is here to calm him down, and we share this touching moment, teehee, between the two characters, who are so different, yet share a common bond. And this would be good, except for why they share this bond.
When the storm took over the island, it wiped out the native people. The Kong saved her.
The Iwi, Jaya's tribe, was wiped off the face of the earth, in universe by that pesky perpetual storm, and in the meta by writers who couldn't be asked to deal with them. Westerners wiping out native people for convenience sake sounds a bit iffy. Granted, I can't exactly say much. The death of the Iwi gives Jaya a familiar connection to Kong, given that he also lost his family when he was young. But it also removes all the potential the Iwi had story-wise. The biggest loss, for me, is the exploration of the very concept of Jaya. A deaf girl who potentially wouldn't be considered handicapped in a village where no one talks, suddenly finding herself treated differently by the rest of the world because of a disability she didn't know she had. But all that potential, and more, is squashed out of the universe by lazy writers who want to give Jaya and Kong a connection as fast as possible. Not that they do much with it. Seriously, Jaya never mentions the family she lost, probably 2 or 3 years ago at this point, and we only find out about them because of Andrews talking to Lind. So yeah, not a great start. Then there's this moment. This also could have been a great scene. Kong roaring into the cave of his ancestors, only to hear his own voice reverberating back at him like the long-lost echoes of a forgotten civilization, of a family long dead. This could have led to a great connection with Jaya, as they find even more common ground to share over both their entire cultures being lost. Or maybe this would alienate Kong from Jaya after she told him his family was down here. But once again, we get none of that. The film barely lets the roar die away before Kong continues walking into the cave. The one thing a more emotionally resonant Titan would be perfect for, a reaction shot, is thrown away because the film is more concerned with spectacle than substance. Speaking of which, this trailer shot looks amazing. If you ignore Godzilla aiming for the axe over the giant ape wielding it, and it also could have been great, but for a question. What is Kong trying to do here? Is he trying to kill Godzilla? The axe buried itself in Godzilla's flank mere minutes earlier in the fight, so a headshot would indicate a killing blow, right? Well, no. Godzilla is knocked out, but otherwise unscathed from the axe to the face, after which Kong backs away. So he wasn't trying to kill Godzilla. He pulled his punch and then let him be. Maybe, but then he waits around for Godzilla to wake up so he can restart the fight. This time, sans axe. So again, what is Kong trying to do here? Genuinely, someone tell me, because I've thought about this too many times and I still can't come up with a cogent answer. Bad setups, a lack of weight, and confusing motives are some of the reasons finding a good scene for Kong in GvK is difficult, if near impossible. But I think I found one. Any other kaiju in this scene probably wouldn't know what was happening here, and if they did, it would bring up a lot of questions. But Kong has plenty of reason to get shouty. He's had first-hand experience of guys with guns and the effects they have. Kong would absolutely recognize the guns being pointed at Jaya and co. If this film was better written, he might be further motivated to protect Jaya after finding his people gone. Or, if he was angry at her for lying to him, this would be a strong, meaningful reaction to seeing Jaya at gunpoint. But even without any greater substantiation, this is still a characterful through line for our hairy boy. A small diamond in the rough. Which brings us to the bad scene. Did you catch that? One more time. Yeah? No? Alright, I'll explain. Godzilla has just blasted a hole into the cave from the Earth's surface. Ignoring everything else surrounding this absolute insanity, this causes the cave to begin collapsing. Kong dodges some falling rocks, grabs his new toy, and jumps into the hole Godzilla just made, leaving Jaya behind. Remember, Kong has a special connection with Jaya through their shared grief over dead family and now lost tribes. He feels protective of her, which is shown when guns were pointed at Jaya moments ago, and described by Andrews on the trip here.
When the storm took over the island, it wiped out the native people. The Kong saved her. I made a promise then and there to protect her, and I think that in some way he did the same.
All this lets us know that Kong should be trying to save Jaya from being crushed to death by the cave-in. Instead, he's making a run for it and leaving her behind to die. It could be argued Kong is focused on going after Godzilla, his anger making him forget about his favourite human. I wouldn't be surprised if this were released as an excuse by Adam Windshield post hoc, just like his "Godzilla was tired" statement. But even if that were the case, that just makes things worse. More likely as not, the makers of Godzilla vs. Kong completely forgot about all of this and sent Kong after Godzilla because they need the next fight to be set up. Once again, spectacle over substance. There's no reason we can't have both, and we could have had so easily. The accidental character assassination of Kong, the terrible undercutting of all the other scenes, and the focus on action and spectacle over everything else Makes me wonder if this one good scene was deliberate or not. If it was, that shows skill, knowledge, talent, and a wherewithal for good storytelling that just doesn't exist anywhere else in the film. If it wasn't, then it tells us they got lucky when making it, and you can only get lucky so many times. This is the sort of thing I want people to be thinking about when watching GxK. Appreciate the flashy visuals for all they're worth, but never forget, good writing doesn't need millions to produce. You're watching characters doing things that should be informed by their characters. So go forth, dear viewer, and seek that which makes you think. Then come back and tell me what you thought. I'm interested. Last but not least, thank you for watching.